The alien ship appeared on the edge of human space without warning. Its hull was smooth and silver, reflecting the distant stars like a mirror. Captain Maria Santos stood on the bridge of the colony ship Perseverance and watched it approach. Her crew was silent, waiting for her orders. "All weapons stay offline," Maria said quietly. "Send the greeting package we prepared." The communications officer nodded and transmitted the message. It contained mathematics, basic chemistry, and images of Earth. The humans had practiced this moment for decades, preparing for the day they would meet someone else among the stars. The alien ship responded quickly. Symbols appeared on the screen, then slowly shifted into words the computer could translate. "We are the Vexian Concordat, representatives of the Galactic Confederation. You are new to space travel. We come in peace." Maria allowed herself a small smile. "Respond with full diplomatic protocols. Let them know we're eager to learn." Hours later, the alien delegation came aboard. Ambassador Thelanara was tall and thin, with skin that shimmered like oil on water. Her three eyes studied everything with careful attention. Behind her came 6 more aliens, each from different species. They moved with the confidence of people who had done this many times before. Dr. Sarah Chen met them in the docking bay. She wore a simple gray suit and carried a tablet. Her smile was warm and genuine as she bowed slightly. "Welcome aboard the Perseverance. We're honored by your visit." Delanara seemed pleased by the gesture. "You learn quickly. Most new species either panic or attack when we arrive. We've been hoping to meet others for a long time," Sarah said. "We have so much to learn from you." The tour of the ship took 3 hours. Sarah showed them the hydroponics bay, the living quarters, the medical facilities. She explained human biology, their need for oxygen and water, their relatively short lifespans. The aliens listened and took notes, asking questions that Sarah answered with patience and detail. "You keep extensive records," Thelanara observed, watching Sarah document their conversation on her tablet. "It's important to us," Sarah replied. "We believe that knowledge should be preserved and shared. Our history is full of mistakes we made because we forgot the lessons of the past." In the conference room, Sarah presented gifts. Books about human culture, samples of Earth's music, seeds from various plants. The aliens examined each item with interest. "Tell me about your laws," Thelanara said, picking up a leather-bound book titled International Law and Human Rights. Sarah's expression grew serious. "We have many laws. Rules about how to treat each other, how to conduct warfare, how to protect those who cannot protect themselves. We created organizations to enforce these rules. Warfare?" One of the other aliens, a creature with fur and large ears, tilted its head. "You fight among yourselves?" "We used to," Sarah admitted. "We had terrible wars that killed millions. But we learned from them. Now we have rules. The Geneva Conventions, the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, the laws of armed conflict. We believe that even in war, there are lines that should never be crossed." Thelanara exchanged glances with her companions. The humans seemed almost obsessively civilized. They had rules for everything, documents for every situation, protocols that they followed with religious devotion. "Most species abandon such idealism once they reach the stars," Thelanara said carefully. "The galaxy can be harsh." Sarah met her gaze steadily. "Then perhaps the galaxy needs more idealism." Over the following days, the aliens learned more about humanity. The humans shared everything freely: their history, their culture, their technology. They spoke about democracy and freedom, about art and literature, about their dreams of exploring the cosmos in peace. Sarah gave presentations on human philosophy. She talked about Kant and his categorical imperative, about Buddha and compassion, about the human struggle to be better than their base instincts. The aliens found it all very charming. They are soft, Thelanara told her companions in private. Gentle creatures who have created elaborate rules to govern their gentle natures. But her security chief, a veteran of many conflicts, was not so sure. They document everything, Ambassador. Every weapon we carry, every defensive system on our ship. They ask questions that seem innocent but gather intelligence. They are curious, Thelanara dismissed. It is natural for a new species. When it was time for the aliens to leave, Thelanara extended an invitation. The Confederation would like to welcome humanity. We offer you membership as a protectorate. We will guide you, protect you, and help you find your place among the stars. Sarah smiled and bowed again. We are deeply honored. We will need to consult with our government, but I believe they will be very interested in your offer. As the alien ship departed, Maria joined Sarah on the observation deck. They watched it disappear into the darkness of space. They think we're weak, Maria said. I know, Sarah replied. Still smiling. They think our rules make us soft. I know. Maria looked at her friend. Did you get everything? Sarah held up her tablet. On it was a complete schematic of the alien ship's design, power systems, and weapon placements. Everything. Plus full biological data on all 6 species, their communication protocols, and their strategic deployment patterns. And the listening devices? Planted in all the gifts we gave them. We'll hear every conversation they have for the next 6 months. Maria nodded slowly. The Council will want a full report. They'll get it, Sarah said. Along with my assessment that the Confederation operates on assumptions of superiority. They see newer species as children to be guided or resources to be exploited. Are they a threat? Sarah considered the question carefully. Not yet. But they could become one. They don't understand us. They see our civilization and think it makes us harmless. Should we accept their offer? Absolutely, Sarah said. We'll establish embassies, send delegations, integrate ourselves into their systems. We'll learn everything about them. And if they ever decide we're too weak to deserve respect, if they ever threaten us or any other species under their protection. She didn't finish the sentence. She didn't need to. Maria understood perfectly. The Perseverance turned toward home, carrying humanity's first contact with alien life. Back on Earth, the military began studying the data Sarah had gathered. Engineers analyzed the alien ship designs. Strategists mapped the Confederation's territory. Scientists worked on understanding alien biology. Humanity had rules and laws and ethics. They believed in them deeply. But they also knew why those rules existed. They knew what humans were capable of when the rules were gone. For now, they would be the perfect guests. Polite, curious, eager to learn. They would follow every protocol and respect every boundary. They would be exactly what the Confederation expected new species to be, but deep in classified facilities across Earth. Another kind of preparation was beginning. Just in case civilization wasn't enough. Just in case the galaxy forced them to remember what lay beneath the surface of their carefully maintained rules. Just in case they needed to show the universe what humans really were. 6 months passed. Since humanity joined the Galactic Confederation, human colonies spread across 3 frontier worlds, always following the rules, always filing the proper paperwork, always being the model new members. Ambassador Thelanara often pointed to humanity as an example of how first contact should work. Refuge. Station orbited a mineral-rich moon on the edge of human space. 1,200 humans lived there, mining rare elements and sending them back to Earth. The station was civilian, protected only by Confederation law and 47 security personnel with light weapons. They followed all the regulations about defensive capabilities for frontier settlements. Michael Torres ran the station. He was 53 years old, gray-haired, and patient. He had spent 30 years in mining operations and knew how to keep people safe and productive. His wife and 2 daughters lived with him on the station. On the morning of the attack, Michael was having coffee in his office when the alarms went off. His screen showed ships approaching, moving fast. They were Vrask vessels, marked with the symbols of the Dominion. The Vrask were members of the Confederation, but barely. They pushed boundaries, tested limits, and believed that strength was the only thing that mattered. They saw the humans as weak newcomers taking valuable territory. "This is Refuge Station to approaching vessels," Michael transmitted. "You are entering protected space. Please state your intentions." The response was a weapons blast that destroyed one of the station's communications arrays. The Vrask boarding parties came fast and brutal. The human security team tried to defend the civilians, but they were outgunned and outnumbered. The Vrask had been waiting for an excuse to see what the humans would do when hit hard. It took them less than an hour to take the station. The security personnel fought to the last person, trying to buy time for the civilians to hide. It didn't matter. The Vrask hunted them through the corridors. Commander Kresh led the assault. He was large even for a Vrask, with thick scales and cold eyes. He gathered the surviving humans in the main docking bay. Over 1,000 people stood together, terrified, watching the armed soldiers around them. Kresh pulled Michael Torres to the front. "You speak for these humans?" Michael kept his voice steady. "I do. This station is protected under Confederation law. You are committing an act of war." Kresh laughed. It was a harsh, barking sound. "Your Confederation is weak. They will talk and debate and do nothing. And your species is even weaker. You come to the stars with your rules and laws and think that makes you strong. I will teach you what strength really means." He shot Michael Torres in the head. The screams from the crowd were cut short when Kresh's soldiers opened fire into the air. "The rest of you will live," Kresh announced. "You will tell your people what happens to the weak. You will tell them that the Vrask do not fear human rules." The transmission he sent to the Confederation showed Michael's execution. He made sure Earth received a copy as well. It was meant to be a warning, a demonstration that humanity's civilization meant nothing in the real galaxy. The message reached Earth 12 hours later. It reached the Confederation Council at the same time. Ambassador Thelanara immediately contacted Dr. Sarah Chun. She found the human in her embassy office, watching the transmission for the 5th time. Sarah's face was blank, empty of all expression. "Dr. Chun, I am deeply sorry," Thelanara said. "The Confederation condemns this action. We will begin diplomatic proceedings immediately. The Vrask will face sanctions and—" "How long?" Sarah interrupted. "I'm sorry? How long will your diplomatic proceedings take?" Thelanara hesitated. "These matters must be handled carefully. There are protocols, committees that must review the evidence, debates about appropriate response. Perhaps 6 months before any real action can be taken." Sarah stood slowly. Her movements were careful, controlled. When she spoke, her voice was very quiet and very cold. "Ambassador, I am officially informing you that humanity is invoking our right to self-defense under Confederation Charter. We formally request that all Confederation forces stand clear of Vrask space for the next 72 hours. "What? Why would we? Because we are going to handle this ourselves." Thelanara felt something she had never felt from a human before. A chill ran through her body. Sarah Chun's eyes were still human, still recognizable, but something behind them had changed. The gentle diplomat was gone. "Dr. Chun, please reconsider. Violence will only make this worse. Let the Confederation handle this through proper channels. That is how civilized species solve disputes." Sarah picked up her tablet and began walking toward the door. "Civilized species," she repeated softly. "Yes, we are civilized. We have more rules about warfare than you can imagine. We have laws about treatment of prisoners, about proportional response, about war crimes and crimes against humanity. We will follow every single one of those rules." She paused at the door and looked back. "But understand something, Ambassador. We didn't create those rules because we're peaceful. We created them because we know exactly what we can do without them. We created them because our history taught us that humans need rules to stay human. What are you saying?" "I'm saying that Commander Kresh just reminded us why we made those rules. And now he's going to learn what happens when you attack people who have those rules but don't need them." Sarah left without waiting for a response. Thelanara stood alone in the office, a growing sense of dread building in her chest. She immediately contacted her intelligence division. "Pull all surveillance on human military movements," she ordered. "I need to know what they're planning." The report came back an hour later, and Thelanara felt her blood run cold. The human cargo ships that had been peacefully trading throughout Confederation space were changing. Hidden panels opened to reveal weapons batteries. Engines that seemed normal suddenly showed military-grade power. Every civilian vessel humanity had launched was actually a warship in disguise. The colonies weren't just settlements. Each one had hidden manufacturing facilities, weapons caches, and trained personnel. The humans had been preparing for war from the moment they entered Confederation space. More reports flooded in. Earth's civilian shipyards had been building a fleet. Hundreds of vessels, all hidden among asteroids, all ready to deploy. The humans hadn't been building a civilization in space. They had been building an army and covering it with civilization's disguise. How did we miss this? Thelanara demanded. Her intelligence chief looked shaken. They were so open, so honest. They showed us everything. We thought we were watching simple colonists. We never imagined they were hiding weapons inside cargo containers, soldiers inside colony transports, military bases inside civilian settlements. They lied to us. No, the intelligence chief said quietly. They told us the truth. They said they believed in rules and laws. They said they had fought terrible wars. They said civilization was important to them. We just thought that made them weak. We never considered that it might mean they were dangerous enough to need rules. Thelanara watched the fleet movements on her screen. The humans were organizing with frightening efficiency. This wasn't a panicked response. This was a planned military operation that they had been ready to execute at any moment. She tried to contact Sarah Chun again. The human answered immediately, her face still cold and empty. "Dr. Chun, please stop this. There are better ways. We gave you 6 months to show us your better ways," Sarah said. "You held parties and signed treaties and congratulated yourselves on peace. We watched and learned. We saw how you treat violence. You talk about it for months while victims suffer. That's fine for you. That's not how humans work. What are you going to do?" Sarah's smile was terrible to see. "We're going to show the Vrask what civilized warfare looks like. We're going to follow every rule in our books. We're going to document everything, follow every protocol, respect every boundary that the laws of war demand. And within those rules, we're going to teach them why humanity wrote those rules in the first place." The transmission ended. Thelanara contacted the Confederation Council immediately, but it was too late. The human fleet was already moving toward Vrask space, and there was nothing the Confederation could do to stop them. The human fleet didn't mass for a grand battle. That was the first thing that confused the Vrask military observers. Instead, the ships scattered across Vrask space in small groups, moving with purpose but not toward any obvious targets. Commander Kresh sat in his command chair aboard the battleship Dominant Fang, watching the tactical display with growing irritation. The humans had sent a message demanding his immediate surrender to face charges of war crimes. He had laughed and deleted it. They have no experience with real warfare, he told his officers. They will learn that rules mean nothing without strength to enforce them. He was still confident when the first Vrask outpost went dark. Then the second. Then 3 more in rapid succession. The humans weren't attacking military targets. They were systematically eliminating communications relays, supply depots, and surveillance stations. Within 6 hours, the Vrask military was blind in half their territory. Find them, Kresh roared. Send patrols to hunt down these ships. The patrols found nothing. The human ships moved like shadows, appearing only long enough to strike before vanishing into the darkness of space. They used tactics the Vrask had never encountered, combining electronic warfare with precise hit-and-run attacks. Then the boarding actions began. The Vrask cruiser, Iron Talon, was the first to be boarded. Its captain didn't even realize humans were aboard until the power went out. His crew rushed to defend the ship, but they were fighting in darkness against an enemy that seemed to see perfectly. The human soldiers moved through the ship like hunters. They didn't make noise. They didn't waste ammunition. They appeared behind Vrask soldiers, struck with brutal efficiency, and vanished before reinforcements could arrive. When the lights came back on, the captain found himself alone on the bridge, surrounded by unconscious crew members. A human soldier stood before him, face covered by a black mask, weapon trained on his chest. "You are now a prisoner of war under the Geneva Conventions," the soldier said in perfect Vrask language. "You will be treated humanely, given medical care, and held until the end of hostilities. Any resistance will be met with appropriate force." The captain tried to resist. The human moved faster than he could follow, and he woke up hours later in a detention cell with a medical bandage on his head and a written list of his rights as a prisoner. Similar scenes played out across the Vrask fleet. The humans boarded ships with frightening efficiency, captured crew members, and left the vessels disabled but intact. They followed their rules perfectly, documenting everything, treating prisoners according to their laws. But there was something terrifying about how calmly they did it. They didn't fight with rage or hatred. They fought like people doing a job, and they were very good at their job. Commander Kresh ordered his fleet to converge on the dominant Fang. If the humans wanted to board ships, they would face a concentration of force they couldn't overcome. He had 5 battleships and 20 cruisers. Let the humans come. They came at 0300 hours ship time. The humans didn't approach the fleet formation. Instead, they broadcast a message on all frequencies. Kresh watched as his own execution of Michael Torres played on every screen, followed by detailed documentation of every death at Refuge Station. Then a human voice spoke. "Commander Kresh, this is Captain Marcus Webb of the United Earth Defense Force. You have been charged with 47 counts of murder, 1,200 counts of unlawful detention, and numerous violations of the laws of war. You will surrender yourself for trial, or we will come and get you." Kresh cut the transmission. "They think they can threaten me on my own flagship? Prepare for battle." The battle never came. Instead, the humans began a systematic assault on his formation that was almost surgical in its precision. They didn't try to destroy the ships. They targeted specific systems, life support, engines, weapons. They forced the Vrask crews to abandon ship or suffocate. The Vrask fought back hard, but nothing worked. Every tactic they tried, the humans had a counter for. Every trap they set, the humans avoided. It was as if the humans could predict every move they made. 3 days into the engagement, half of Kresh's fleet was disabled. The other half was running low on supplies and morale. The humans had lost only 2 ships, and those had been evacuated before destruction. No human casualties. That was when the psychological warfare began. The humans started broadcasting messages to individual Vrask soldiers. They spoke about their families, their homes, their futures. They asked them if Kresh was worth dying for. They reminded them that under the laws of war, prisoners would be treated well and returned home safely. The first ship to surrender was a cruiser with a young captain who didn't want his crew to die for Kresh's pride. Then another. Then 3 more. The Vrask fleet was falling apart. Not from damage, but from the slow realization that they were fighting an enemy that could kill them easily, but was choosing not to. That mercy was somehow more terrifying than violence would have been. Kresh ordered the remaining ships to make a last stand around Refuge Station. He would use the human hostages as shields. The humans would have to negotiate. Captain Marcus Webb's response came within an hour. Commander Kresh, you now hold civilians as hostages. This is a war crime. You have 24 hours to release them unharmed. If you do not comply, we will extract them by force. There will be no negotiation. Kresh tightened security around the station. He placed explosives throughout the structure, ready to destroy it if the humans attacked. He made sure Webb knew about them. Come and try, he transmitted. Your people will die. The humans came at midnight station time. They didn't use ships. They didn't approach through the docking bays. Small teams in stealth suits attached to the station's outer hull and cut their way inside. They moved through maintenance tunnels and ventilation systems, reaching positions throughout the station before Kresh even knew they were there. When they struck, it was simultaneous across every section. The Vrask guards found themselves facing humans who moved with cold efficiency, neutralizing threats with precise violence. The explosive charges were disabled by human engineers who seemed to know exactly where each one was placed. The extraction took 47 minutes. When it was over, every human hostage was safe. Every Vrask guard was captured, and Commander Kresh found himself surrounded in his own command center. Captain Marcus Webb stood before him, removing his helmet. He was younger than Kresh expected, with hard eyes and a calm expression. He held a tablet in one hand and a weapon in the other. Commander Kresh, Webb said quietly, I am placing you under arrest for war crimes. You have the right to remain silent. You have the right to legal representation. You will be transported to a neutral location for trial. You will be treated according to the standards laid out in the Geneva Conventions and the laws of armed conflict. Webb began reading from his tablet, listing every single person Kresh had killed at Refuge Station. He spoke each name clearly, gave their age, their occupation, their family status. It took 20 minutes to read the entire list. You wanted to teach us what strength means, Webb said when he finished. You thought our rules made us weak. But strength without rules is just brutality. And brutality is easy. Any animal can kill. It takes real strength to hold yourself back, to fight within limits, to be deadly and civilized at the same time. He gestured to his team. Take him. As Kresh was led away in restraints, he looked back at Webb. Your people will be consumed by the galaxy. There are worse things than me out here. Webb nodded slowly. I know. That's why we have rules. Because we've seen worse. We've been worse. And we decided to be better. But don't mistake that choice for inability. We can still be the monsters we used to be. We just choose not to be until someone like you forces us to remember. The news of the Vrask defeat spread across the Confederation within days. The humans had achieved in 72 hours what would have taken the Confederation months of debate. But what truly shook the galaxy wasn't the human victory. It was how they won. Every prisoner was treated well. Every casualty was documented and honored. Every rule was followed perfectly. The humans had been ruthless, efficient, and absolutely terrifying. And they had done it all while maintaining the moral high ground. Ambassador Thelanara watched the footage from Refuge Station and finally understood what Sarah Chun had tried to tell her. The humans weren't civilized despite being dangerous. They were civilized because they were dangerous. They knew what they were capable of without rules, and that knowledge made them hold those rules sacred. The Confederation Council chamber was silent as Dr. Sarah Chun walked to the center. All around her, representatives from 40 different species watched with expressions ranging from fear to respect. Ambassador Thelanara sat at the head of the council, her 3 eyes fixed on the human diplomat. Dr. Chun, Thelanara began, her voice formal and cold. You stand before this council to answer for your species' actions. Humanity violated Confederation protocols by engaging in military action without proper authorization. You deceived us about your military capabilities. You hid weapons and soldiers among what you claimed were peaceful colonists. Sarah stood quietly, hands folded in front of her. She wore the same simple gray suit she always wore. Her expression was calm. You pretended to be something you were not, Thelanara continued. You presented yourselves as peaceful, civilized, eager to learn from us. But you were preparing for war from the moment we met. How do you answer these accusations? Sarah took a breath and looked around the chamber. When she spoke, her voice carried clearly to every corner. Ambassador Thelanara is correct. We did hide our military capabilities. We did prepare for conflict while smiling and shaking hands. We did deceive you about what we were capable of. Murmurs ran through the council. Several representatives looked vindicated, others confused. But we never lied about who we were, Sarah continued. We told you from the beginning that we valued rules and laws. We showed you our books about warfare, about human rights, about the Geneva Conventions. We explained that we had fought terrible wars and learned from them. You saw all of this, and you decided it made us weak. She walked slowly around the chamber, meeting the eyes of various representatives. You made a mistake that many species seem to make. You assumed that civilization is the natural state of a peaceful species, that rules and laws emerge from gentleness, that our obsession with protocols and ethics meant we were harmless. Sarah stopped in front of Thelanara's seat. But civilization doesn't work that way. At least not for humans. We didn't create the Geneva Conventions because we're naturally kind. We created them because we fought wars that killed millions. We didn't establish human rights because we're naturally fair. We established them because we've seen what humans do to each other without those rights. She pulled up a display on the chamber's main screen. Images appeared, historical records from Earth, cities destroyed by atomic weapons, mass graves, concentration camps, battlefields where millions had died. This is human history, Sarah said quietly. We have fought wars that lasted years, decades, even centuries. We have created weapons capable of destroying our entire planet. We have committed atrocities that we still struggle to comprehend. And every single rule we have, every law we cherish, every protocol we follow, we created because we learned what happens without them. The chamber was completely silent now. You thought our civilization made us soft, Sarah said. But our civilization exists precisely because we're not soft. It exists because humans are very good at violence. And we needed to control that capability before it destroyed us. A representative from the Kelvin Accord, a species known for their philosophical nature, stood slowly. Are you saying that all humans are capable of what we saw in Rask space? Sarah nodded. Yes, every human child learns to control their aggression, to follow rules, to treat others with respect. We teach these things from the earliest age because we know what humans become without them. We're not naturally peaceful. We choose peace because we understand the alternative better than most species ever will. Then you are dangerous, another representative said, fear clear in their voice. Yes, Sarah agreed simply. We are dangerous. But dangerous doesn't mean uncontrolled. A surgeon with a scalpel is dangerous. A parent protecting their child is dangerous. Danger focused by rules and ethics becomes a tool rather than a threat. Talenera leaned forward. But you hid this from us. You let us believe you were something else. Did we? Sarah asked. Or did you simply not listen? We told you about our wars. We showed you our weapons treaties. We explained why rules were important to us. You saw all the evidence and chose to interpret it as weakness rather than restraint. She turned to address the full council again. Commander Crash attacked our people because he thought we were weak. He murdered Michael Torres to prove that human rules meant nothing. He wanted to teach us that strength was all that mattered in the galaxy. Her voice hardened slightly. So we taught him a different lesson. We showed him that humans can be strong and civilized at the same time. We followed every rule in our books. We treated prisoners with respect. We documented everything. We used proportional force. And within those rules, we completely dismantled his fleet in 72 hours. You want us to fear you, a representative accused. No, Sarah said firmly. I want you to understand us. Fear would mean you might attack us out of desperation. Understanding means you'll never give us a reason to go to war. She gestured to the images still displayed behind her. Humans invented the phrase, crimes against humanity, because we needed words to describe what we had done to ourselves. We created international courts to try war criminals because we needed justice even for enemies. We wrote treaties limiting weapons because we built weapons too terrible to use. Sarah's expression softened slightly. Every human carries both the savage and the citizen inside them. The savage is our history, our evolutionary past, our capacity for violence. The citizen is our choice, our conscious decision to be better than our instincts. And that choice is real. It's genuine. We truly do want peace. But the savage is still there, Talenera said quietly. Yes, Sarah acknowledged. It's always there. Every human knows it. We teach our children about it. We study it. We remember it. Because forgetting it would be dangerous. If we ever believed we were naturally peaceful, we might stop maintaining the rules that keep us civilized. The chamber was quiet for a long moment. Finally, the representative from the Kelvin Accord spoke again. What do you want from this council? Sarah straightened. Full membership in the Confederation. Not as a protectorate, as equals. We will contribute to galactic security. We will share our knowledge and our resources. We will follow Confederation law, and if we refuse, then we will leave peacefully and establish our own territories. But we will not accept being treated as children who need guidance. We've been to hell and back on our own planet. We've earned the right to stand on our own feet. Another long silence followed. Representatives whispered among themselves. Finally, Talenera stood. The council will vote. She looked at Sarah for a moment. I misjudged your species, Dr. Chen. I thought your politeness was weakness. I thought your rules were naivety. I apologize for that error. Sarah bowed slightly. You weren't wrong to hope we were weak, Ambassador. A weak species would be safer for the galaxy. But we're the species we are, not the species you wished we were. All we can offer is our promise that we'll use our strength responsibly. The vote was nearly unanimous. Humanity received full membership status, with all the rights and responsibilities that came with it. But more than that, humanity was offered a new role in the Confederation. We need protectors, Talenera explained later, in a private meeting with Sarah. Species who understand violence well enough to prevent it. Species who have rules, but can act when rules aren't enough. You said humans carry both savage and citizen inside them. Perhaps that's exactly what the galaxy needs. Sarah considered this carefully. We won't be your attack dogs. We won't fight unless it's justified. I wouldn't ask you to. But when species like the Vrask decide to test boundaries when violence threatens innocent lives. Perhaps having humans available to respond would prevent conflicts before they start. Deterrence, Sarah said. Yes, the galaxy should know that attacking peaceful species will bring a response. Not from gentle diplomats who debate for months, but from humans who remember what war means and know how to end it quickly. Sarah nodded slowly. We can do that. But understand, Ambassador, we'll follow our rules. We won't commit atrocities to stop atrocities. We'll remain civilized, even when we have to fight. I would expect nothing less, Thelanara said. That's precisely why we need you. The galaxy has plenty of species who can kill. We need a species that can kill but chooses not to, unless they have no other choice. Months later, Captain Marcus Webb stood in front of the memorial on Refuge Station. The names of all 47 security personnel were carved into dark stone, along with Michael Torres and the others who had died. Fresh flowers sat at the base, placed there by the survivors who had returned to rebuild their home. His daughter Julia, 7 years old with her mother's dark hair, held his hand and looked up at the names. Daddy, are the people in the galaxy our friends now? She asked. Marcus knelt down to her level. Yes, sweetheart. They're our friends. Will we ever have to fight again? He thought about how to answer that. About the savage and the citizen. About rules and their purpose. About the burden his generation carried so that hers might not have to. I hope not, he said honestly. We're going to work very hard to make sure we don't have to. We're going to be good friends, good neighbors, good members of the galactic community. But if we have to, she asked with the directness of children. Then we'll remember these names, he said, gesturing to the memorial. We'll remember why we have rules. And we'll do what we have to do, the right way, so that you and your children never forget what those rules protect us from. Julia nodded solemnly, not fully understanding but trusting him. They stood together in silence for a moment, then walked back toward the station's main complex, where her mother was waiting. Marcus looked up at the stars through the viewing port. Somewhere out there, the Confederation was watching humanity, still trying to fully understand what they had welcomed into their midst, still trying to reconcile the smiling diplomats with the soldiers who had dismantled the Vrask fleet in 3 days. He hoped they would never truly understand. Understanding would mean experiencing what humans had experienced, learning the lessons that humans had learned. It would mean their own civilizations going through the same hell that Earth had endured. Better that they simply accepted the truth. Humans were dangerous because they knew how to be, and civilized because they chose to be. The savage was real, but so was the citizen. And the galaxy was safer because humans remember both, honor both, and knew exactly when each was needed. We're the monsters who learn to be men, he whispered to himself, repeating the words that had become unofficial motto of the Defense Force. May the galaxy never forget which one we choose to be. He turned away from the stars and went to find his family, leaving the memorial standing silent witness to the truth of human nature. Civilized on the outside, savage inside, and wise enough to know the difference.